Dear friends, I am Professor Muhammad Ahmed, Faculty of Law, University of Lucknow, New Campus. Here, I am going to discuss, or you can say that share the knowledge in the field of constitutional law, and particularly I am going to begin with Article 14, which deals with right to equality clause. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution declares that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law and equal protection of laws within the territory of India. This means that state shall not deny equality before the law and equal protection of laws within the territory of India. This means that the article uses two expressions: equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. The phrase equality before the law and equal protection of laws, these two phrases has been or borrowed from the American and British and American Constitution. Therefore, we can say that it finds a place in almost all the written constitution that guarantees fundamental rights. This means that equality before the law and equal protection of laws has its place, or we find these two phrases in almost all the written constitutions of the world, particularly those constitutions which are guaranteeing fundamental rights. Both these expressions have, however, been used in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948. The first expression, equality before the law, is of English origin, while the second expression has been borrowed from the American Constitution. Both these expressions aim at establishing that is called equality of status in the preamble of the Constitution. So, while both the expression may seems to be identical, it clearly appears that these two expressions are identical. They do not convey the same meaning. While equality before the law is a negative concept implying the absence of any special privilege in favor of the individuals and the equal subject of all classes of the ordinary laws. Equal protection of law is a more positive concept, implying equality of treatment in equal circumstances. This means in equal circumstances, the treatment shall be equal. So, however, one dominant idea common to both the expression is that of equal justice. When we go through the example, that is the leading case in this regard is State of Bengal versus Anwar Ali Sarkar. It was in the case of State of Bengal versus Anwar Ali Sarkar, it was observed by Justice Patanjali Shastri that the expression is corollary of the first, and it is difficult to imagine a situation in which the violation of the equal protection of laws will not be the violation of the equality before the law. This is the substance. The two expressions mean one and same thing. So these two expressions means one and same thing. Equality before the law, the concept of equality does not mean absolute equality among human, because human beings which which is physically not possible to achieve. So, amongst all the human beings, it is not physically possible to treat them equally. So, it is a concept implying absence of any special privilege by reason of birth, creed, or the like in favor of any individual, and also the equal subject of all individuals and classes to the ordinary law of the land. According to Professor Jennings, equality before the law means that among equals, the law should be equal and should be equally administered, that like should be treated alike. The right to sue and be sued, to prosecute and be prosecuted for the same kind of action should be same for all citizens of full age and understanding, without distinctions of race, religion, wealth, social status, or political influence. So, the equality before the law and equal protection of laws are of the same footing what Professor Dicey has recognized under the rule of law. What now question arises that what is rule of law? What is the rule of law? The guarantee which is given, that is the guarantee of equality before the law, is an aspect of what Dicey calls in the rule of law in England. It means that no man is above the law, and that every person, whose whatever be his rank or conditions, is subject to the jurisdiction of ordinary courts. Ordinary courts. Dicey wrote every official from the prime minister down to constable or a collector of taxes is under the same responsibility for every act done without legal jurisdiction as any other citizen. So, this within the concept, Dicey's concept, we can say that from top to bottom all are equal, and every citizen should be treated equally from prime minister up to the constable or peon. The rule of law requires that not person shall be subjected to harsh, uncivilized, or discriminated treatment, even when the object is the security of the paramount exigencies of law and order. Professor Dicey gave three meanings of the rule of law. First, absence of arbitrary power or supremacy of the law. It means that absence of supremacy of laws opposed to the arbitrary power of the government. In other words, a man may be punished for breach of laws, but he cannot be punished for nothing else. Then second concept says that equality before the law, which means subjection of all classes to the ordinary law of the land, administered by ordinary law courts. This means that no one is above the law, with the sole exception of the monarch, who can do no wrong. Everyone in England, whether he is an official of the state or a private individual, is bound to obey the same law. Here, what he has said, that except monarch, that was the exception. But where it was said earlier that king can do no wrong. But now the circumstances changed, and it has been said that king is not entitled to do wrong. Therefore, the public officials do not hold a privileged position in Great Britain. In Great Britain, there is one system of law and one system of courts for all, that is, for public officials and private persons. Third is the constitution is the result of ordinary law of the land. So, this third concept of rule of law given by Professor Dicey is in the British constitutional law perspective, because our constitution is not the result of ordinary law of the land, but it was made by our Constituent Assembly. And after a long debate, our drafting committee has made constitution. But in Britain, the constitution is an unwritten constitution, and being the unwritten constitution, it is the result of ordinary law of the land. And the constitution of Britain, we cannot say that British constitution is not having any document, but it is not collected and compiled in a single document. It is found in the scattered form, and British constitution is based on the custom, precedent, legislation, and etc. Or you can say that the conventions also plays a vital role in the British constitution. It means that the source of right of individuals is not written. So, the source of individuals is not written in the constitution, but the rules are defined and enforced by the courts. This means that although it is not written, but the rules are defined on the laws which are enforced by the courts. The first and the second aspects apply to the Indian system, but the third aspect of the Dicey's rule of law does not apply to Indian system, as the source of rights of individuals is the Constitution of India. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all laws passed by the legislature must be consistent with the provisions of the Constitution. This means that every law which has been passed in India, it should fulfill the requirements of the Constitution or objectives of the Constitution. So, equal protection of the laws. The guarantee of equal protection of laws is similar to one embodied in the 14th Amendment to the American Constitution. This has been interpreted to mean subjection to equal law, applying to all in the same circumstances. It only means that all the persons similarly circumstanced shall be treated alike, both in the privileges conferred and liabilities imposed by the laws. So, now the equal law should be applied to all in the same situation, and there should be no discrimination between one person and another. As regards the subject matter of the legislature, their position is the same. Thus, the rule is that the like should be treated alike. This means that like should be treated alike, and not that unlike should be treated alike. This means equality amongst equal. Though the rule of law imposes a duty upon the state to take special measures to prevent and punish brutality by police methodology. The rule of law embodied in Article 14 is the basic feature of the Indian Constitution, and hence it cannot be destroyed by an amendment of the Constitution, as in Article the 368, which empowers the Parliament to make laws and amendment. So amendment procedure is there. It is entitled as power of Parliament to amend the power and procedure of the Parliament to amend the Constitution. So it tells us about the power as well as procedure. So after the amendment in the Constitution, even the basic structure of the Constitution shall not be destroyed, as it was held by the apex court of the land in the Keshavanand Bharti versus State of Kerala. So, Union of India. So, under these circumstances, even the rule of law cannot be destroyed, as it has been recognized as the basic structure of the Constitution. The words any person in Article 14 of the Constitution denote that the guarantees of the equal protection of laws is available to any person, which includes any company or association, body of individuals. The protection of Article 14 extends to both citizens and non-citizens and to natural persons. This means that the protection available under Article 14, it is available to citizens, non-citizens, and even natural persons, as well as legal person. The equality before the law is guaranteed to all, without regard to race, color, or nationality. Corporations, being juristic persons, are also entitled to the benefit of Article 14. This means that corporations are juristic person. That's why they are also entitled to be treated according to the provisions of Article 14. But there are certain exceptions to the rule of law under in the light of the Article 14. The general principle of rule of law as given by Dicey is absence of arbitrary power or supremacy of the law. Second is equality before the law. And third is the Constitution is the result of the ordinary law of the land. This rule of equality is, however, not an absolute rule, and there are numbers of exceptions to it. Number one, equality before the law does not mean that the powers of the private citizens are the same as the powers of the public officials. This means public officials are having different power, and private persons are having different power. Thus, a public officer has power to arrest, while no private person has such power. It is neither violation of rule of law nor principle of equality, but the principle of rule of law does require these powers should be clearly defined by law, and that abuse of authority by public officers must be punished by ordinary courts in the same manner as illegal acts committed by private persons. The rule of law does not prevent certain classes of persons being subject to special rules. Thus, members of the armed forces are controlled by military laws. Similarly, medical practitioners are subjected to the regulations framed by the Medical Council of India, which is a statutory body, and are immune from ordinary courts. Article 361 of the Indian Constitution provides that the President of India and Governor of the states shall not be answerable to any court for the exercise and performance of the powers and duties of the office, or for act done or purporting to be done by him in the exercise and performance of those powers and duties. Even such immunity is available in criminal cases or in criminal matters. That is, no criminal proceedings shall be instituted or continued against the President and governors of the state during his term of office. This means that when governor or president is in the office, even no criminal proceedings shall be continued. So, no process for the arrest or imprisonment of the president or the governor of a state shall be issued from any court during his term of office. Thirdly, ministers and other executive bodies are given very wide discretionary powers by statute. So they have got very wide discretionary power by the statute. A minister may be allowed by law to act as he thinks. This means the minister may be allowed to act as he thinks suitable or fit, or if he is satisfied. Such power are many times abused because of large number of legislation has passed in the form of delegated legislation, that is rules, orders or statutory instruments made by ministers and other bodies and not directly by parliament. These rules did not exist in diocese rule of law. Fourthly, certain members of the society are governed by special rules in their professions, that is, lawyers, doctors, nurses, members of armed forces, and police. Such classes of people are treated differently from ordinary citizens. The Constitution itself contains provisions which, under certain circumstances, limits the effectiveness of Article 14. This means equality before the law and equal protection of laws. Now we can say that what is the scope of Article 14? So, Article 14 has been considerably restricted by the 42nd Amendment Act 1976. The new Article 31C added by the Amendment Act provides that laws made by the state for implementing the directive principles contained in Clause B or Clause C of Article 39 cannot be challenged. This means they cannot be challenged on the ground that they are violative of Article 14. Such laws will thus be an exception to Article 14 of the Constitution. In Sanjeev Coke, this is a case known as Sanjeev Coke Manufacturing Co. versus Bharat Cooking Co. Limited, the Supreme Court has held that where Article 31C comes in, Article 14 goes out. Thereafter, the second scope, Article 359 Clause 1 provides that where a proclamation of emergency is in operation, the President may by order declare that the right to move any court for enforcement of such rights conferred by Part 3rd except Articles 20 and 21, shall remain suspended. This means that all the provisions of the Constitution or all the fundamental rights which are enshrined in the Part 3 of the Indian Constitution that shall be suspended except Article 20 and 21. So, thus, if the President of India issues an order where a proclamation of emergency is in operation, or enforcement of Article 14 may be suspended for the period during which the proclamation of emergency is in there and is in force. Third, Article 361 says, which says or lays down that the President and governors are exempted from any criminal proceedings during the terms of their office. Fourth, under international law, foreign sovereign and ambassadors enjoy full immunity from any judicial proceedings or process. This is also available to enemy aliens for acts of war. So, Article 14 permits classification. Article 14 permits classification but prohibits class legislation. This means it only permits classification but does not permit class legislation. The equal protection of laws guaranteed by Article 14 doesn't mean that all laws must be general in character. It doesn't mean that the same laws should be applied to all persons. It doesn't mean that every law must have universal application for all persons or not by nature attainment or circumstances in the same position. The varying needs of different classes of persons often requires separate treatment. From the very nature of society, there should be different laws. So, in different places and legislature contains the policy and enacts laws in the best interest of the society and the security of the state. In fact, identical treatment in unequal circumstances would amount to inequality, so a reasonable classification is only not permitted but is necessary if society is to progress. This means that the reasonable classification is although permitted under Article 14, but it is need for the progress of the society. That's why it has been permitted that the reasonable classification can be made. Thus, what Article 14 forbids is class legislation, but doesn't forbid reasonable classification. However, the classification not be arbitrary. This means when classification is being made, it should not be arbitrary or artificial or evasive, but must be based on some real and substantial distinction, being a just and reasonable relation to the object sought to be achieved by the legislation. Article 14 applies where equals are treated differently without any reasonable basis, but where equal and unequal equals are treated differently, Article 14 does not apply. A class legislation is that which makes an improper discrimination by conferring particular privileges upon a class of persons, arbitrarily selected from a large number of persons, all of whom stand in the relation to the privilege granted that between whom and the person not so favored, no reasonable distinction or substantial difference can be found justifying the inclusion of one and exclusion of other from such privilege. So there is also elements there are which makes that what are the reasonable classification and what are the tests to determine the reasonable classification. So, as regards to Article 14, which prohibits class legislation, it does not prohibit reasonable classification of persons or persons, objects, and transactions by the legislature for the purpose of achieving specific ends. But classification must not be arbitrary, artificial, or evasive. It must always be based upon some real and substantial distinction, bearing a just and reasonable relation to the object sought to be achieved by the legislature. Classification to be reasonable must fulfill the following two conditions. This means that when there is a classification is being made, it should be fulfill the two conditions which are as follows. That is, number one, the classification must be founded on an intelligible differentia which distinguishes persons or things that are grouped together from others left out of the group. And second, the differentia must have a rational relation to the object sought to be achieved by an act. The differentia, which is the basis of the classification, and the objects of the act are two distinct things. What is necessary is that there must be a nexus between the basis of classification. This means the basis on which classification has been made, there must be a nexus. So, and the object of the act which makes classification. So, it is only when there is no reasonable basis for a classification that legislation making such classification may be declared discriminatory. Thus, the legislature may fix the age at which person shall be deemed competent to contract between themselves, but no one will claim that the competing or competency. So the Supreme Court of India has explained the true meaning, nature, and scope of Article 14 in the case of Re-Special Bill case. Honorable Justice Chandrachud, as then he was, formulated new propositions to follow regarding the applicability of Article 14. This has been rightly criticized by Mr. Sirvai as making the well settled principle unsettled and creating confusing and uncertainty and encouraging litigation. For a valid classification, following are the essentials. So, what are the essentials? A law may be constitutional even though it relates to a single individual, if on account of some special circumstances or reasons applicable to him and not applicable to others, that single individual may be treated as class by itself. And second is that there is always presumption in favor of constitutionality of a statute, and the burden is upon him who attacks it to show that there has been a clear transgression of constitutional principle. Third, the presumption may be rebutted in certain cases by showing that on the fact of the statute there is no classification at all and no difference peculiar to any individual or class and not applicable to any other individual or classes, and yet the law hits only a particular individual or classes. Fourthly, it must be presumed that the legislature understands and correctly appreciates the needs of its own people, that its laws are directed to problems made manifest by experience, and that its discriminations are based on adequate groups. Fifth, in order to sustain the presumption of constitutionality, the court may take into consideration matters of common knowledge, matters of report, the history of the times of the legislation. Sixth, the legislature is treated or recognized degrees of harm and may confine its restriction to all those cases where the need is deemed to be clearest. Seventh is, while good faith and knowledge of existing conditions on the part of legislature are to be presumed, if there is nothing on the face of the law or the surrounding circumstances brought to the notice of the court on which the classification may be reasonably be regarded as based, the presumption on constitutionality cannot be carried to the extent of always holding that there must be some undisclosed and unknown reasons for subjecting certain individuals or corporations to be hostile or discriminatory legislation. Then there is another thing, that is eighth point. The classification may be made on different bases, such as geographical or according to objects or occupations or the like. So these classification cannot be made only on a single particular ground, but there are the various circumstances on which classification can be made on the geographical grounds or on the basis of objects, occupation, profession, trade, etc. Then ninth is, the classification made by legislature need not be especially perfect or logically complete. Mathematical nicety and perfectness is not possible. That's why equality are not required. Equality before the law does not require mathematical equality of all persons. In all circumstances, equal treatment does not mean identical treatment. Similarly, not identify of treatment is enough. Tenth, there can be discrimination both in the substantive as well as procedural law. Article 14 applies to both. If the classification satisfies the test laid down in the above propositions, the law will be declared constitutional. The question whether a classification is reasonable and proper or not must, however, be judged more on common sense than on legal subtitles. So, the new concept of equality protection against arbitrariness came into existence, which we shall discuss in the next part of Article 14.